Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. Do you have friends thinking about getting into gaming or those that are not really casual players? You do? Then why are they your friends? And what do they spend all their money on? Well, to welcome into the hobby and our community, you don't want to bring out the big guns too early. Instead, there are many deemed gateway games to ease wannabe gamers in, but you want to choose those that aren't too complicated but have nice mechanics, not too long but are still engaging, and have little downtime between turns. I've got a few on my shelves and I'd like to tell you why I think that Seven Wonders is the kingpin of gateway games. Let's do this. First, the components. Well, there aren't that many different parts, and that's the beauty of it. There are 7 player boards to choose from, each nicely illustrating one of the great cities. You have a handful of 2 types of tokens, which are shiny coins and military conflict tokens, and there is also a big stack of cards that represent different buildings that you can construct that are split into 3 age decks. Lastly, there are reference sheets and a score pad to record and tally victory points. That's it, not much at all. You'll also notice that the player boards and cards are text-free and instead use symbols that are easily identifiable as to what they are and how they can be used, which is great because you don't want to bombard your noobs with paragraphs of text. Also, it means it's fairly simple to explain the components briefly before their hand twitches towards their phone. Grrr. So what else does minimal components mean? Well, a quick setup. I sometimes like to explain components of a game as I set up, and with 7 Wonders this doesn't take too long. First, each player can randomly select a player board termed Wonder Board and take 3 coins. The age cards are shuffled and separated into 3 decks, and the remaining coins and military conflict tokens form a reserve. It's literally that simple and doesn't take up that much room, which is great if you have the maximum number of players, which is 7. So far so good. We've enticed them with nice artwork, a quick setup, some shiny foil back cards and perhaps some snacks and drinks, but not on the table. Next up is the part feared most by seasoned gamers, going over the rules to our new guests. Thankfully, excluding the setup, the rules are a mere 4 pages that are laid out very clearly so the game becomes easy to teach. So there must be more as to why I think 7 Wonders is the master of gateway games. Well, there is, and this is mainly due to gameplay mechanics. Firstly, this is a competitive game which I generally prefer over co-ops as gateway games to remove the possibility of an alpha gamer telling others how to take their turn. That's no fun for anyone. Also, there is no player elimination and no take that actions, which can be quite off-putting for newer players. This game uses a card drafting mechanic with no game board in sight, just you, your player board and the open road. And sometimes that's all you need. The game is played over 3 short rounds where each player is dealt 7 cards from the Age 1 deck. You select just one and all players reveal their cards simultaneously. Everyone will then carry out one of the 3 actions at the same time, which are construct a building on the card, construct a wonder from your board, or sell the card for hard-earned cash. What I like here is that you can have players carry out their actions one at a time so that everyone can watch other players' actions to familiarise themselves with the game and the various rules of the cards available. However, once everyone is trusted to play at the same time, downtime becomes non-existent. So, what are the card types that can be constructed? Well, first, constructed means to be placed near or under your player board. There are 7 types of cards, all represented by a different colour and all do different things. Brown and grey cards provide you with resources that along with coins can be used to purchase other cards. When built, they'll sit partly under your wonder board and can be stacked. Along with the resource shown on your wonder board, you'll have access to these resources and any others you claim over the course of the game. But if you don't, you can always pay one of your neighbouring players 2 coins to use one of their resource cards. Civil buildings are represented by blue cards and offer hard victory points at the end of the game. Red are military cards and like resources are stacked throughout the game, but these only come into play at the end of a round where you'll compare the number of military symbols you own with your 2 neighbours. If you have more, you gain victory tokens that increase the value with each age. If your military strength is lower, you will gain a defeat token which will reduce your victory point total later. This means that you'll need to keep an eye on other players for borrowing resources and their military symbols. Commercial cards are yellow that provide immediate bonuses such as coin or ongoing effects, and green are nerdy science building where you'll need to collect sets that provide big bonus victory points based on types and number of cards that you've constructed. Last are the guild cards that provide endgame victory points if you meet certain requirements that only appear in the Age 3 deck. Instead of constructing and making use of the card's abilities, you can instead build a wonder on your board. All you need to do is meet the requirement here and gain the bonus or effect. The played card then sits under your player board to record this. What I like about Seven Wonders is that you have quite a few card types to play as your action, but it shouldn't take too long for players to decide which card best suits their need. Do you need resources, or do you have coin to borrow from your neighbour? How is your military strength doing? Are you at risk of losing victory points, or are you going to push your luck and hope for additional card types of science cards to form sets? But how are you going to do this if your hand doesn't have what you want? Well, I'm glad I asked. After everyone has played a card and carried out an action, your remaining hand of cards are passed to the player on your left, and you then receive brand new hand from the player on your right, where the direction of passing changes during each age. All players then carry out the same process of selecting a card and carrying out an action, again passing on their hand. I love this mechanic, as they say life is like a drafted hand of cards. You never know what you're gonna get. The round will end when each player has one card remaining, where the military strength of players is then determined. After dealing, drafting and passing cards from all three ages, players will then score victory points, recording them on a little notepad under, you guessed it, 7 headings. As there are multiple ways to score, such as from civil buildings, military tokens and even the remaining coins, it gives players a lot of options on how they wish to develop their city over the course of the game, and there is rarely any cause for analysis paralysis. Therefore, this game has incredibly high replay value due to the scoring mechanisms, variety of cards that become more powerful with each age deck, and obviously the drafting mechanic. Also, each player board is different with regards to starting resource and wonders that can be constructed, plus they are double-sided. Some may think that games like Splendor may be a better match as the gateway game because Seven Wonders can offer too much choice for players, but I think Splendor is a little too simplistic, and I tend to find the game will end quite suddenly. As mentioned, games are relatively short, less than 30 minutes, and constantly flow with card selection, action and passing of your hand. Players can also develop a kind of chain with cards, where some cards allow purchasing of other cards free of cost if they have matching symbols, which adds another small level of awareness and some strategic depth without tipping the boat. So, I'd like to hear what your gateway games are, or what you were introduced to, so feel free to let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe button. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.